Welcome to another episode of Aliyah Money Talks. I'm excited to be having our first panel discussion here with different Olim. A recent report came out from the Bank of Israel and talked about how over 50% of Israel's exports in 2021 were in high tech. And high tech is probably dominates Israel's economy. I think Olim are realizing that, and Olim are focused on that. And many Olim are seeing, and potential Olim are seeing the increasing opportunities in high tech. So I'm excited to introduce our guests today, Rena and Abby Domnitz. Both Rena and Abby are former colleagues, people I've worked with, I've learned a lot from, and have now made the switch over into high tech. And I think I'm really excited to ask you guys questions about your transition. I think many Olim are very interested in that. So why don't you start, Abby? Why don't you start telling us about yourself, when you made Aliyah, and what you do?
So, thank you for inviting me to talk today. I made Aliyah 13 years ago now, nearly coming up to 13 years. And honestly, I just finished studying in England University, and I had a bit of marketing experience. And I made Aliyah, and I continued working from home a bit. And then I was like, okay, it's time to get into the Israeli workforce. And I started applying for jobs, and I was lucky enough to land a job in high tech, actually, at a startup, the iScience back in the day, where I worked for 2 years. In customer success, which then in those days it was called account management. Today it's known as customer success. And I went there for 2 years, and it was great, and I learned a load, and it was incredible to have that interaction and involvement with the Israeli society as well. When you make Aliyah, to go into the Israeli workforce is like another step of becoming engulfed in Israel, I would say, as well. And then I took a bit of a pause on my high-tech journey. I was lucky enough to meet Aaron and to start working at Israel Video Network, where I stayed for 7 years, actually. Oh, wow. 7 years. And then I, at the end of that journey, decided it was time again to challenge myself again. And I was ready to kind of go back to that world of high tech. And I was lucky enough once again to find a great opportunity for a great company with great people at Store Maven, which is where I'm working today. I've been there for coming up to 1.5 years. Again, in customer client services, consulting really as well. For our customers worldwide. Great.
So Rena, why don't you introduce yourself, and then we're going to jump into more of these details.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm Rena. I am originally from New York, and I came to Israel about 10 years ago for a gap year in seminary. I came then and basically have not left since. I did Shir Ulumi after that. Then I studied at Bar Ilan, where I studied social sciences. And straight out of Bar Ilan, I got my first job at Ulpan Al-Inyan, where I had the pleasure of working with Aaron as well. He came a bit later, but in total I was there for about 4.5 years. It was my first working experience in life, and specifically in Israel. And there I did a bunch of different roles, started as an executive assistant, then moved on into more admin-y, customer success, also dealing with customers of ours there. And when I left there, I was coordinating our private lessons and whole sector of our sales as well. So as I said, I was there for about 4.5 years, and then I was also ready to find something new. And that's where I got my job now. I work at Auto Lead Star, which is a startup here in Yerushalayim. And I'm also doing HR, admin, and operations here. And I've been here about 5 months.
So continue on that. Why did you, and then we'll go back to Abby, but why did you specifically take the plunge into high tech? Why did you decide to move on from where you are, but to move towards high tech specifically?
Yeah, so for me, it wasn't super conscious. It wasn't like, okay, now I'm ready to move on and I will only look into high tech positions. I was looking at anything more specifically, convenience to my house or like work-life balance in terms of hybrid or anything in Yerushalayim. And Autoleaser kind of fell into my lap. I had heard about this company for a while as being known as like, you know, a Yerushalayim startup. And I had the opportunity, there was an opening. I had looked in the past and there wasn't anything, there was an opening. And I applied here and it kind of worked out that way. It wasn't super conscious, like I'm only applying to high tech. But it was a company that I kind of had my eye out for a while. And then it worked out that way.
And Abby, what about you? What kind of motivated you to get back into high tech after you previously started your career in high tech, but to transition back into high tech after quite a few years out of high tech?
Yeah, so I think also similar to Rena, I had worked at Israel Radio Network for quite a long period of time, and I felt like I was ready for my next challenge. And again, I wasn't searching for high tech specifically. I was searching for something different, something that was going to challenge me, and looking for kind of more growth where I would use my brain and be challenged myself as well more. And I was looking, I live in Kochov HaShachar, so I wasn't just looking at Yerushalayim. I was also very open to working in the Merkaz. I work in Tel Aviv. And it just happened that Store Maven, again, it's not necessarily a typical CS job. There's a lot more to it. It's very fast-paced. It's a lot of consultancy as well as just kind of servicing, like, you know, our product, how to use it and what to do. And I just continued the road. Something caught my eye. I thought, yeah, why not? Let's go. Let's see and dig more into this. And I continued the journey and step by step. And I landed up in high tech, which is great. And I love it. And it's an amazing environment. But it wasn't I have to work in high tech. Right. It was more of it answered what I was looking for, I think. And I think in Israel, a lot of the jobs from what I've seen and heard, there's just a lot more opportunities at the moment when you're looking for something that's English speaking, where I can work in English. And yeah.
Great. So let's say they're, Olim who are listening to this and they're interested in getting into high tech and they're specifically attracted to the high tech sector, but they're not coming out of Technion, they're not engineers, they're not computer science majors. What roles have you seen that are available in the high tech world, whether in Yerushalayim or in Tel Aviv? Abby, why don't you start us off with that? What kind of different roles are beside, including what you're doing, but what roles do high tech companies need?
Look, there's all the services side of things where you don't have to come from a technical background. So you've got client services, you've got sales, it can be with design if you come from a design background. And then you've got a whole array of marketing as well. And marketing, it can be content marketing, social media, community. There's so many different aspects there as well. Product marketing or just working in product as well. I think if I was talking to someone making Aliyah and they want to look into high tech, it's about thinking about what are your strengths, what are your interests as well. And then moving forward, there's so many opportunities here to come start at entry level, mid-level, kind of obviously more senior as well.
Got it.
So you really do have that opportunity here.
Yeah. Rena, what about you? You've got any other things to throw in there from your perspective in Yerushalayim?
Yeah, I mean, similar type roles as well, meaning I came in as like an admin and on more of the HR side, so that also is always available. And what I think is attractive for a lot of people in the startup and high-tech world is that there is a lot of growth. So I've seen a lot of people who came in here at specific jobs, maybe they didn't have as much high-tech experience, and over time have grown into new positions. So like the two people who did my job before me are still in the company, but now we're doing something completely different in like the finance team. Still not, writing code or anything like that, but found ways to grow and move. And as companies grow and expand, those opportunities present themselves also, which is, I think, attractive for people. Yeah.
And continuing with you, Rena, what have you found to be the biggest challenge since making this transition? I mean, it's like you said, it's very high paced. It's a totally different experience. What challenges have you found?
Yeah, I think just the expectation is a bit higher for everyone. Everyone is working as hard as they can to get something going. Even this startup that is not very new. There's just this feeling of like wanting to give your all, which is super positive. But I think also it's an adjustment to get used to that of like giving all of yourself all the time, full force. Specifically for me now, just in terms of, my job is very office based, so I have to come in basically every day now with flexibility. So for me also coming out of this, Corona hybrid life, switching to that has definitely been new and a challenge. But in general, like it's just, everyone just is working at like 110%, which is a good thing. It's just you have to get used to that.
Right.
Coming in every day, you're ready to work. So yeah.
Abby, what about you? What would you say are some of the challenges you have found since making the switch back?
I think the fact that there's only 24 hours in the day, and we miss our Sundays from football. But like we joke, but it's that work-life balance. It's finding that equilibrium. As Rena said, like the pace is so quick, and everyone's working, and everyone's kind of going on it. And at the same time, it's knowing to put yourself forward. I'm really lucky to work in a company that really you come first as a person, and family still comes first. So this morning I was supposed to be doing this podcast in the office, but there's this teacher strike. So here I am sitting at home. So it is the ability to have that flexibility to work. Corona was horrible for everyone, but I think the hybrid environment is a huge positive for any kind of working parent out there. And it's finding that balance, which is tough and exhausting and doesn't always happen all the time, but no one's perfect, and we just strive to do our best and be our best, I think.
Yeah. So what, if you had to kind of break it down, and you were speaking to Olim who were considering this, would you advise that they research, do some sort of boot camp, get some sort of education before, beyond their basic college education? But is there a certain thing you would recommend that they get started? I know there's all kinds of boot camps in the coding world. When we're talking about somebody who's looking to get a high tech, not from the coding world, from the marketing world, and from the the general perspective, what are some good things to start with to get started before starting to apply for jobs in high tech? Abby, why don't you start us off there?
Look, I think there's loads of different opportunities that come up. I know Monday.com just recently did a CS for client services. They ran a course also. It's about being on LinkedIn, following some of the big startups, seeing what courses are available there as well. And really, it's about being in Israel and just networking as much as you can, speaking to people. That's how it's done here in Israel the majority of the time. You speak to someone who'll know someone who will make an introduction for you. And it's about just networking your way through it. Being vocal on different Facebook, LinkedIn groups, speaking to people, asking questions, and making sure that you're in the know, seeing what's out there for you as well. There are courses not just in coding, in other areas as well. There's Nefesh is a content writing course, I believe, as well. So these things really are on offer out there as well.
Right. Rena, but how about you? Would you add anything to that?
Yeah, just similar to what Abby said, but I really do think it's about speaking to people, hearing about different companies. The only reason why I knew that this company even existed was because I had known someone who worked here. And because of that, like I said, I knew it was a startup in Yerushalayim. I kind of always checked when they had job openings, things like that. I really do think networking, especially in the English-speaking Anglo community, is super, super strong. Following on LinkedIn, being active on LinkedIn, all of that. And honestly, Anglos have a huge upper hand with the English, and that's a great first step, especially in startup high-tech world. And yeah, I don't know how, as long as you have the work experience and are ready and all that, it doesn't really matter so much. I don't think always that you were in a startup or high-tech before. But yeah, really talking to people and hearing about different companies, seeing what's available, and networking.
Yeah. So there's some sort of, you see it online a little bit, pushback around the concept of transitioning into high tech, where you have doctors that are sometimes saying, I want to do high tech, and you have teachers that are saying, I'm not making it as a teacher. I want to transition into high tech and get a much better salary and do work. Can you work in high tech and still do things that are meaningful and impactful? Rena, why don't you start us off there?
Yeah, I think so. I think that there is a lot of discussion now in Israel with this. You see posts about it really quite often. I think it's a bigger discussion in terms of the systematic things going on in Israel. I'm not sure we can solve it. But I do think there's a way to find meaning in your work, even if you're not, working in a high-tech type of job. I think it's a lot also on the company to do that. Thank God, like our CEO is very passionate about that, about making it feel that even though sometimes you're just coming in doing tasks and things that they got done, but like seeing the bigger picture of who we're helping and who we're servicing,
Right.
to add meaning to that. So I do think it's on the companies a lot to like have their employees feel like we are making a difference. And even if we're not a nonprofit, you could still be helping people and changing their life in certain ways. And I also think it's on you about understanding that even, in Ulpan Linyan, when we worked there, sometimes it felt like my things I was doing were very like tasks and minute and whatever. But when you take a step back and look at what this is for, you're able to find a meaning in it here as well. Meaning, I think it's about you as a person taking a step back, seeing what you're doing it for. I do my job so that everyone else in this office can do their job. And what are they doing? They're doing their job so that people can, run a small business, a mom and pop shop, even though it's in the States, but still. So I think it's a lot about a mindset. And seeing the meaning in it and knowing yourself also. Maybe you won't find meaning in this specific company, but a different high tech you will. So it's kind of about where you lie in that as well.
Right on. Yeah, Abby, how about you? How would you push back to that? That criticism or discussion around meaningful and impactful in high tech.
Yeah, look, I don't save lives every day. It's not what I'm doing at all, and it's not who I am either. I think it's about knowing that every person has their own strengths. Every person's going to go out there and do something that they enjoy as well, and that's good for them. I think that, there's high-tech companies. I think in most high-tech companies today, I would say there's different social agendas as well, social impact agendas, whether it be the cloak collecting that, our company had for the Ukrainians, or different social value impact days as well, volunteering. That does happen. Is it on a daily basis? No,
Right.
But it does happen. It's about making your voice heard also within the company to build that as much as you want to be involved with it as well. And beyond that, it's about who you are, how you carry yourself, and who you're speaking to. And it doesn't mean I'm not going out and saving a life when I go to work, but can I say something impactful to help a person? Can I do something that works and make a good impression on someone, and all these things. And beyond that, yes, I work the majority of my hours a day at work, but there's the rest of your time as well, and what you're doing with that as well, and how, again, you're balancing all of your time with that.
So sticking with that theme, Abby, how would you? What tips would you have for fellow mothers, for fellow people out there trying to balance the work-life balance?
You're not Superwoman.
We all struggle with.
We all struggle with it, and I say there's two things. Number one, you're not Superwoman. You can't do it all, and I think that's a huge, hard realization sometimes for some people, men or women. And it's about sharing that load. About if you're in high tech, about making sure that your partner, so if you've got a partner who's there to support you, they can come home and they can do a couple of nights a week with the kids. That's how I do it, how we do it, I should say. And being able to have that balance there, about taking the shortcuts, about, yes, we're earning more money, but also know that we can use that money to help ourselves, because you're the number one priority. If you as a parent are not functioning properly, so your family unit isn't either. So you need to be able to look after yourself, take those shortcuts, find the help where it's available and where you can do to get that balance and that routine.
Great. Rena, anything to add in there?
I need to take some of Abby's advice there. I think for me also, it's really about holding your boundaries as well. You build a schedule and all that stuff. And if you have a time, I need to leave by now, that's when you leave. And if you're at home with the kids and that's your night, then I'm not answering calls now. And it's really about being fully present where you are. So when you're at work and you're doing work, that's where you are. And when you're at home and you're with your family, that's where you are also. I think that's where the balance is. Balance isn't about it being 50-50 because we're at work a lot more hours than we are at home. I really do believe means that when you are in whatever space you are, you're giving your full self to it. And that is something I really try to be good at. And I think it helps you feel more whole and balanced when you're keeping those boundaries and knowing where you are when you're there and being fully present. But it is definitely a constant struggle. I think all people at work feel it, specifically parents. And again, I'm going to take some of that advice and keep working at it.
Awesome.
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah, please, Abby.
We're speaking about entering into high tech and this balance and all these things. And I think it's about making sure that you're in the know when you are interviewing and looking for the jobs. It doesn't mean at, your first interview when you're speaking to someone saying, oh, so what's your hybrid and what are your hours like? But it is at some point when you're doing for a job and getting there, getting those true realizations. I think people at my company thought I was crazy. I asked the question so many times of, wait, so I can take off like 4 to 7 every day and I can just make up my hours? And they thought I was crazy, checking. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that as much as the company wants you, you want the company. And I think you need to find that company that's good for you and that will work with you as well. And that's also what will help you make that balance.
Right. Proper expectations. Amazing. This was really a lot of great information. I really appreciate you guys taking the time. And have a great day.
Thank you.